Thank you all very much. On behalf of all of my colleagues at Vent, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to this very special and historic occasion marking Vent's 40th year since its founding, our 40th year in business, and as I say, it is a very special occasion for all of us at Vent, and we thank you for being here. This event is, there are 112 participants here tonight, including 17 Vent leaders and a variety of other special guests. And this event is the biggest thing that Vent has ever done before. We did this 10 years ago for our 30th anniversary, but the number of people in attendance and the scope of the event eclipses that, and we're very proud of that. We have an exciting program ahead this coming week, we think. We have field trips and all sorts of other things that we're going to talk about here in a minute. But before I go any further, I want to recognize some special guests that are here with us in the audience tonight. And many of these people who I'm going to introduce have a long affiliation, a long association with Vent, and we're really thrilled to have them here with us. And I want to start by recognizing Raul Arias de Parra. Raul, where are you? There he is. There he is over there. Raul, I almost don't even know how to introduce Raul because he has been so important to Vent for so many years. In the late 70s and into the early 80s, I think, people were traveling to Panama, but given the turmoil and some other things that occurred since then, really, Raul Arias is, it's not an exaggeration to say that he is the father of modern ecotourism in Panama. Vent has been operating tours to Panama for solidly many departures for the last probably close to 20 years now, and it's because of the lodges that Raul built, the Canopy Tower, the Canopy Lodge, and most recently the Canopy Camp. And I know that a number of you have been on Vent tours to Panama, and we're especially proud of the fact that when those properties were inaugurated, Vent was the first group to visit those lodges. So, Raul, thank you. We're sorry Denise couldn't be here with you tonight, but we're certainly thrilled to have you. I want to also recognize two of the giants of birding, Ken Kaufman and Pete Dunn. Anybody who's been around birding for any length of time anybody who's been around birding for any length of time knows the name Ken Kaufman through his writings, through his public speaking, through his advocacy of conservation, and most recently his close association and involvement with the Black Swamp Bird Observatory with his wife Kim Kaufman, who unfortunately couldn't be here, and of course Pete Dunn, past Vice President of New Jersey Audubon, Executive Director of the Cape May Bird Observatory. Pete is here with Linda Dunn, and we're thrilled to have them with us also. And through the years, Pete and Ken have led tours for Vent. Okay. I also. Okay. Pete wants Linda to stand up. Pete and Linda, thank you so much for joining us. Terry Moore, and Terry, where are you? I know you're out there somewhere. Terry Moore, right over here. Terry is here with his wife Judy Moore, and Terry, for a number of years, Vent has been sponsored by Leica Sport Optics. And Terry has been, at different times, for a long time, the vice president of their sport optics division, and now he's the marketing and special projects manager. And Leica makes some of the best optics in the world, and Vent and its Vent leaders have been so thankful to have this association with Leica, and really so much of that has to do with the efforts of Terry. And Terry and Victor and I, we've worked on this relationship for a long time. So Terry, thank you. I'm going to say a little bit more about that in a minute. And then also we have with us two members of Vent's board of directors, Tim Havens over here, right here, and Sam Naphy. One thing that I can tell you, everybody, that as the business has grown and become more complex, the leadership and the guidance that Tim and Sam have provided has really proven valuable to us. And so anyway, it's a real pleasure to have those guys with us. You know, when we had our 30th anniversary, it was in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. It was based in McAllen. And in some ways that was an obvious choice because to birders far and wide, far South Texas is so well known and so famous as a birding destination. When we announced the 40th anniversary event, we had some phone calls and there were some questions that were asked, why Beaumont? You know, for many people I think that maybe there was some question as to where Beaumont even was, right? And then you look at the map and you see that it's not far from Houston. And you think, well, why not Houston, right? Well, if you look at a map of the upper Texas coast from Galveston to the Louisiana state line and all these wonderful birding areas that are found in this part of Texas, Beaumont sits right in the center of it in terms of proximity to all the coastal locations, the piney woods to the north, and other areas, the Bolivar Peninsula to the south. Plus, of course, it has all the services that we need. So that's part of the reason, but there's another part of the story, which is that when Victor Emanuel founded Victor Emanuel Nature Tours in 1976, it was in this part of the state. This is, of course, this is the general area where Victor was from. And so it just seemed real appropriate to us on this historic occasion to be based right here out of Beaumont. And we're really thrilled to be here. This is the first time, other than our tours passing through here, this is the first time that we really ever had Beaumont as a venue, at least in my 21 years with the company. So that has a lot to do with it. You know, when I look out at the audience here, it's so nice to see. It's a real delight to see some familiar faces, but also new faces. Those of you who've been supporters of Vent for a long time, we're deeply appreciative and we welcome you. And then also those of you who are perhaps less familiar or new to the Vent tradition, we welcome you. Now, we have an exciting 5 days, we think, 4 full days ahead of us after tonight, with field trips and all kinds of things. And we have an artist corner, which is now what you're looking at over here. It isn't as obvious, but in the next room, we encourage you in the ensuing nights to go over to the next room here and check the artist corner. There is an optics table which Terry Moore is hosting, and there is a promotional code that he will give you for a discount on Leica's optics if you're interested. And then also, of course, we have our cash bar. And our art exhibit features the artwork of several Vent leaders, including Luis Zamitis, Rafael Galvez, and Mimi Wolf. And we encourage you to go over and take a look at that art. The art is for sale. And so if you see something that you like, it is available on a first-come, first-served basis if you track down the artists among us. But the art will still be displayed throughout the event and will be available for pickup on the last night. I'm sorry? Okay. All right. Absolutely. Thank you, Sam. Mimi Wolf? Rafael Galvez? And Luis Zamitis. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Victor here in just a moment, but I want to make a statement here, which is that to bring an event together, to bring something like this off, it takes the hard work and collaboration of a lot of us at Vent. our operations team, our tour leaders, all of whom, we have 17 of them here, all of whom bring years of experience and knowledge, and people who put in the hard work to make all this happen. But, you know, we can pat ourselves on the back about that, I guess, but that only tells part of the story, because the fact of the matter is that none of us would be here, none of this would be possible if it wasn't for you. All of you who have been loyal supporters of Vent, people who have taken our tours, it really has meant a lot to us. And you know, it's looking back since we had our 30th anniversary celebration, thinking about some things that have changed. We have added some new faces. We have some new tour leaders with us. We have developed new programs of tours. We have tours to different parts of the world and different styles of tours that we're now offering. But of course, also, we weathered a major economic downturn in 2008. And you know, that was it was a tough time, much like it was for many businesses. And through it all, you have stuck with us, and that really means a tremendous amount to us. It's you know, I can't really tell you how much it means to us that you continue to visit us and take our tours. Okay, with that, I have referenced field trips and our tour leaders. There are 17 of them, and I'm going to ask Victor Emanuel to come up and introduce the Vent leaders and staff.
Well, this is truly amazing, remarkable, gratifying to see you all here and to have this event. 40 years. I never dreamed, when I was in the living room of my house in Houston, that I would be here with this group of wonderful people that have taken our tours, and with the leaders we have and the staff we have. I'll say some more about that in my talk on Thursday night. But before I talk about the leaders, I do want to remember 4 people that aren't here tonight because they passed on. They were very important to our company. I just want to remember them at this time. Roger Torrey Peterson, who was the father of American birding, who got behind us very early on when we were just starting out. Peter Matheson, my dear friend, who led one of our very first tours 40 years ago, right here, starting on the Upper Texas coast. The great writer, the great naturalist, the great conservationist, dear, dear friend. George Plimpton, the remarkable man that he was with his writing, with his work with the Paris Review, who also mentioned us in articles in Audubon Magazine, twice in Sports Illustrated of all places, and who always promoted our tours. And particularly my dear friend Ted Parker, the greatest birder in South America, the greatest South American ornithologist, who I met in 1970 at the Shamrock Hilton Hotel, the very day I first met the first person who paid me to take them out birding, Dean Gorham. So oddly enough, on the same day I met the first person who had hired me for a day of birding, I met a young man, he was in high school then, who had become one of the key people in the company that I didn't know I was going to start a number of years later. So I remember those wonderful, wonderful people and wish they could be here. The leaders that are here, the main reason our company has been successful has been obviously your support, as Barry said, our wonderful office staff, and our leaders. No company, any tour company, nature tour company, any travel company of any kind has ever been as fortunate as we are to have the team we have. And these folks, many of them have been with us for 38, 39, 20, 40 years, and they work very, very hard. They work their hearts out. They give that extra effort, that extra mile. They care about every person, seeing every bird, and they have been the hallmark of the success of our company. So let me start with, alphabetically, David Ascani. I want to ask them to stand up. And a very important person in our Venezuela program, which is now kind of on standby because of the problems in Venezuela with getting visas, but in Cuba, he's our man in Cuba. And in many other areas, in Costa Rica, in Panama, on the canopy, on the sea cloud voyage. He's the guy that finds the whistling warbler, one of the hardest birds to find. He gets it for people. He's a great bird finder. He's a great personality, a great, wonderful, warm, welcoming person. Eric Brunke. Eric, back here. Eric from Beaumont, Minnesota. One of the newest members of our team. Tremendous enthusiasm, wonderful personality, wonderful knowledge of birds. We're delighted to have him with us. Rafael Galvez, Rafa from Florida. Remarkable man, artist, birder extraordinary, again, wonderful with people, leads some of our very important tours, just led a great cruise up the coast of South America he was telling me about, and did our Trinidad trip and many other trips. Brian Gibbons. Brian came to our summer camp in 1988. 1988. He's one of the products of our summer camp. I didn't start these summer camps as a farm team to produce leaders. A friend of mine said that when I started Miss Victor, you got your own farm team. I didn't even thought of it. But it has produced some wonderful leaders, some of whom, like Marshall Iliff, was taken away by Cornell for eBird from us. We lost Marshall, but he was with us, and he did go to our camps. And Brian has led Spain, he's led Hungary, he's led the Colorado Grouse Tour, many, many important tours. He and his wife and their young son live in Tucson. He's a terrific leader. Steve Hilty. Steve goes back almost to the very beginning. He was the first really authoritative and useful guide to the birds of any South American country, the birds of Colombia. It still stands as a landmark, as the best guide ever written on any country, because not only does it have a wonderful description of the field marks, but there are the habits, there's information about the birds, there are wonderful paintings by Guy Tudor. He was just at the Colombian Bird Fair, 450 people there, Colombians. He was on radio, he was on television, he was interviewed, he spoke. He is a big hero in Colombian birding, and he has a tremendous amount in Colombia. Is really coming along as a country and as a birding destination, just like Costa Rica did and like Panama did, thanks to Raul. So Steve has headed up many of our tours all over the world, but particularly in Central and South America. And I'm looking forward to doing a tour with him I've wanted to do for 10 years. Southern Missouri, where he grew up, in Arkansas, the prairie and the mountains. I'm doing that finally. So then Denver Holt from Montana. Denver started the Owl Institute to study owls. He built it up from a bootstrap, like some of us did, Ben. Does tremendous research on owls. He does our owl tour. People kept telling me it was the best tour they'd ever been on. I finally took it myself. I went on it. Went on it to co-leading it with Denver. It was one of the best tours I've ever made. I mean, to have a great gray owl just across the road from you on a fence post. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So we really appreciate all the hard work Denver has done. He also does a trip called Ornithology 101. He's doing a trip for Spitsbergen for us this summer. So he's been with us a long time. Jerry Langham from California. Jerry has so many important tours in Costa Rica, in California. His Grand California tour fills up with long waiting lists. Many, many tours Jerry has done around the United States and Latin America, and then in Australia and Borneo, and we appreciate all of his hard work, and he gets tremendous recommendations from the people that go with him. Thank you, Jerry. Barry Lyon, another product of our camp. And Brian Gibbons, they were both there as campers, and now they're both here helping as part of our team. Barry is doing a tremendous job as our chief operating officer, but he's also a fantastic birder and tour leader, and I've led many tours with him in Panama and Costa Rica. we do the trips every year for the Cornell Laboratory of Ornithology's Chairman's Council, which are their large donors, in sometimes with 25 people. But we've done many cruises together in Greece and in the Sea Cloud, and another tremendous. Derek Michalak. Derek Michalak. Here, Derek. From Nordheim area, where my father grew up, east of San Antonio, one of the top birders in Texas. He's filling in for Kevin Zimmer, who couldn't be with us because his wife's recovering from an operation. And we're delighted that he could come and help us, and we're delighted to have him part of this team of leaders. Michael O'Brien. Michael. Wrote the book on the shorebird. Tremendous expert on birds all over North America, but also has led our tours with his wife to Belize, just did a tour to Sweden, to Fosterbo, and other trips he's done, and our train trip across America. Now he's doing the Warburg train with his wife, and is a wonderful writer and one of our top people. Bob Sundstrom, been with us for many years. Bob has led our Japan trip. He's led our trips to Hawaii. He's led trips in the Pacific Northwest, led trips in Texas, many trips, and been with us for many years, but has played a key role in the development of Bird Note, which is a radio thing about birds. Unfortunately, don't get it in Austin. It upsets me. Our station won't do it. They say they don't have space for it. But it's like Stardate, a little brief thing about birds. Bob has written many of them. And now we're doing some trips for Bird Note, for their donors. Andrew Whitaker. Andrew Whitaker from Brazil. Andrew has played a key role in our whole Brazil and South America program. A tremendous leader. He, along with Kevin Zimmer, has discovered new species of birds to science. They've been added to the world's avifauna, and just a top-notch leader and birder. David Wolf. David Wolf. David has been with me almost from day one, and has done so many trips around the world. His specialty has always been Africa. He loves Africa, East Africa, South Africa. He's doing a South Africa trip this summer, which I think only has one space left on it. But he's also lots of time with his wife in Ecuador. They own a little bit of land down there. They love Ecuador. He's done a lot in Central America. He and his wife do our Costa Rica tours and do a fantastic job. And he's been with me as one of the key people in our company from almost day one, along with his wife Mimi. Mimi, stand up again, Mimi. I've known them for many years, even before they got married and had kids and grandkids. Louise Zamitis. Louise. Working with her husband and doing tours also on her own, a wonderful member of our team. And then my old friend who I met when he was really a young teenager, Barry Zimmer. Barry Zimmer. And his brother Kevin on the Whooping Crane boat in 1975 in April. And they were really wet behind the ears. They were very young and already tremendous birders. And he has headed up so many of our tours, particularly things like Grand Banan, where they have the great golf match, the miniature golf match that people love, and also see a lot of great seabirds and warbirds. And he's done our Big Bend tour, a lot of our Texas tours, a lot of our tours in New Mexico, and he and his wife and daughter live in El Paso. And then I want to recognize two members of our office staff who are here, some more coming later in the week. Greg Lopez. Greg Lopez, our longest-serving office manager, does a lot of our big departures, has played a key role in this whole event. And Eric Lindquist also does a lot of Australia. So I just wanted to recognize these people, and hopefully you saw their pictures up. I'm sure Eric put them up. They are the core of our business, our office staff and our leaders, and you all as participants, as Barry said. And we have worked very hard to build up this team, and we have a fantastic team. And I'm very thrilled to be here with them. to celebrate this, for us, historic event. And I'm very happy to be here with all of you all. So I'm going to turn the program back over to Barry.
Okay, so a few minutes ago I talked about some of the various activities, the field trips and so on, the things that we have going on during the evening social hour. And what I want to do is I want to talk about the field trips a little bit in just some general terms to help get you prepared for what's to come in the next couple days. Before I do that, though, I do want to make a couple of announcements. You probably saw in the welcome letter that we have added a book signing over the next 4 nights to the event. And the book signing will take place in the table, I think, right back there, I believe. Greg's pointing a different direction. Over here, okay. Against this wall over here. We will have a book signing that will take place during the evening social hour. So if you have any books by the authors that you would like to have signed, and the sequence of signings is described in your welcome letter, we encourage you to do that. But on that note, I do want to call attention to Steve Hilty, because many of our tour leaders possess an array of talents, but Steve was born with the ability to write. And in addition to his field guides, I just wanted to let you know, right before this event started, Steve's newest book, called Dirt, Sweat, and Diesel, A Family Farm in the 21st Century, was published. And we're really proud of Steve, and he will be signing copies of this on, I think, Thursday night. And because this is so hot off the press, and you wouldn't even have had time to order the book if you would like to have one, Steve did bring 20 or 22 copies with him down here, and so those will be available for sale, and that would be on Thursday night. Okay, and then one other announcement I have is that Pete Thayer is with us. Pete, where are you? Pete of Thayer Birding Software. If any of you are familiar with birding software, Pete has been at it for a while, and he just released, version 7 was released for PCs a year and a half ago, and just most recently he released version 7 for Mac. And in honor of this event, Pete has got a promotion. If you visit his website, which is ThayerBirdingSoftware.com, ThayerBirding.com, there is a promotional code you can enter and get a nice discount on Thayer software. Thank you, Pete, for that. Okay, so for our field trips, we have 4 days of field trips, and we're going to be covering a number of areas around here. And I guess I'm going to preface this with just a couple notes about the weather. And one thing that's nice about the weather is that it always gives us something to talk about. And no matter where you live, you can always talk about the weather. And this week, a number of us have been on the ground here since last Monday, and since then, others have arrived, in which we have been fanning out and covering the various routes that we're going to be running for these field trips. Well, we had nice sunny weather, kind of windy, and at times there were a few birds around. And now it looks like we're going to have some unsettled weather this coming week, right? Any of you who've been tracking the weather reports will have seen that there is a high probability of rain on Sundays. First thing I should tell you is that is not atypical for this part of the world at this time of year. The springtime often brings stormy, wet weather, but there is a big however to that, and that however is that the thing that, of course, everybody is hoping for is a fallout, or at least a major grounding, where there are lots of these beautiful songbirds to look at the coastal hotspots. And we'll see, but there is rain in the forecast, and some of it looks like it's going to be falling at the right time, so we'll see. But given that, we do want to emphasize that it's important for you to be adequately prepared. One of the things that every once in a while, not so much recently, but at different times in my career, people have said things like, "What's the coldest you've ever been on a tour?" There was a time in central Nebraska on the Sandhill Crane Tour that easily takes the cake, but that's another story. Believe it or not, it can be right here in Texas, and with conditions like this. And the reason why is because when you get into the springtime, people think, well, I'm coming to Texas, and it's bound to be warm. But then therefore, people don't come adequately prepared with the right clothing. And so if there's even just a little bit of rain and the wind's blowing, it can be quite uncomfortable. So, it's the old dress in layers. Bring things that you can add or take off as you need. The next couple days in particular, there is a strong probability of rain, as high as 70 to 90% at times. So we ask that you come prepared. The usual stuff: sunscreen, insect repellent. We will have some extra repellent available for those who need it. A hat for protection from the sun, should that be an issue. And of course, a big question is always footwear. What kind of shoes should I wear for the coming day? And if you wear a trail shoe or light hiking boot, that should be adequate. We do not anticipate getting you out into deep mud or having to tromp through deep grass or having to wade through any type of standing water. And so those are some of the basics there. Because of these field trips, we do, we have full days in the field planned, yet that time goes quickly. So we ask that you be at the vehicles outside right when it's time to go. And this is the grand ballroom, obviously. The entrance, or the place where you're going to be getting into the vehicles and meeting your tour leaders in the morning, is right out this entrance to the back here. This is called the grand ballroom entrance. So when you walk out, and if you were to hang a left, there would be a back entrance to the lobby right there, and that is the site where we will be meeting you in the mornings. And Eric, if you could, what I was told is that before this program, recently somebody stole the clicker for the PowerPoint thing, so we're kind of going manual here. So Eric, if you could go to the next slide, I'll tell you about that in a second. Right there, in your welcome packet, you were given a patch. And this patch is a commemorative patch. Every year, Houston Audubon produces it, and it features a different warbler. This year, it's the blue-winged warbler. And essentially, what that patch does is that it gets you entry into the sanctuaries at High Island. And there are a couple of them. And so we ask that you keep this patch with you. You go ahead and pin it to you, but keep it with you, particularly on the days that we visit High Island, which are the Zone 1 and 3 field trips. And just kind of a little reminder there in case you were maybe wondering what that patch was for. I believe the patch has a safety pin on it, so you can go ahead and add that. Does anybody have any questions about the field trips, or is there anything that might not be clear to you for the mornings? Okay, excellent. I believe that that's all that I have to add at this time. And yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Victor raised a good point, which is that should you decide that after a couple days of birding you've had enough, or you want to go do something else in town, or just take a day off, of course that's not a problem. But we ask that you let anyone on the Vent staff please let us know your intentions so that we will not expect you in the morning. Yes?
Will we be doing a list at the end of the day?
Okay. So the question was asked about a checklist, and thank you, because I didn't want to forget that. What we learned when we did this 10 years ago for the 30th anniversary is that a checklist is difficult. And we know that that is a strong part of the Vent tradition. That's what we do. At the end of the day, we gather around and have a checklist session. But the field trip return times are scheduled for 5 o'clock. And then the evening social hour starts at 6 o'clock. And we just don't think that there is enough time to gather around and have a group checklist session. Once the social hour begins, there is a lot to do in here, as we discussed. But we want to then move into dinner and our keynote presentations. And to attempt it afterward when everybody's tired and frankly would be better served getting a good night's sleep, we think is the way to go. Now, that being said, you did receive a field checklist in your packet some time ago. For those of you who are especially interested in keeping a checklist, bring it with you. Work on it during the day. Some of the field trips, we've got some lengthy drives. And you can go ahead and keep up with it. If you have any questions, your leaders can obviously answer those questions. And what we're going to do at the very end, Brian Gibbons is going to compile a master list of everything that was seen during the trip, which you will be receiving within a couple of weeks after the conclusion of this event. So that's it for the checklist session. And I know some people will be disappointed to hear that. And we apologize, but what we found when we did this 10 years ago is that it's just a little bit too much. And the last announcement I want to make is, there was a logo there that you saw briefly on the American Bird Conservancy. ABC, as the organization is known, their executive director, George Fenwick, had hoped to be here tonight to say a few words. Unfortunately, George had a terrible travel delay and was just not able to make it. So we're sorry about that, but as we all know, these things do happen. Okay, so as we move into the final section of the program, I do want to welcome Victor back up to the. Yeah. Yes. Okay. The Zone 4 field trip is the early one. That's the one that departs at 5 a.m. You will be having for that activity, you will be carrying a breakfast with you that they've put together. It's like a box breakfast or a to-go breakfast, which they assure us is good. And that is going to be available for pickup here in the Grand Ballroom tomorrow morning starting at 4:45. Marilyn. Yes, the vans have got food for lunch, snacks, and water. Yes. Okay, Victor.
I want to make a few comments about my feelings about what's ahead for us in the week and my feelings about this area that's so special to me. But before that, I want to mention comments that Barry said. There's always more to say about the weather. I know people get worked up about there's going to be rain. It won't rain all day. And I look at my weather report, it's like afternoon showers, on some days morning showers. And believe me, I have been here many a day with bright sunny skies and a strong south wind, and you're lucky to see very many birds at all. I am delighted that we're going to have unsettled weather. I know that it means you may spend some time sitting in the van waiting for the rain to stop, and maybe somebody will tell stories or whatever. But yeah, I would much rather have the weather to deal with, and it gives us the chance to have some kind of fallout. We don't know how big, but as a person that loves migration, I'm delighted we have the weather. I want to make a couple of comments about the setting here. I grew up here. This is my favorite part of the world. And so to have this wonderful group of people to be with us, with our company, and what has been my patch, my favorite part of the world, means a lot to me. I have a little small house down on the Bolivar Peninsula that some pilgrims may go by and get up on my porch and look out at the birds from my porch. You'll see my little house there. But migration spring is special everywhere. And I wanted to share, and I'll jump back and forth to this. I've mentioned in the Event Flash Spring in Washington, which I rediscovered a few years ago because I had read it. And Barry Lyon told me I talked about it so much he wanted to borrow it, and then he was reading it when we were leaving Zurich. He said to me, Barry, Victor, this is wonderful. That inspired me to read it again. I've decided I'm going to read it every spring as part of spring. And I'm going to share some quotes from me, but one quote he says, "The discovery of spring each year after the winter's hibernation is like the rediscovery of the universe." That's the way he writes. So this book is about his philosophy of life, not just about spring unfolding in Washington, D.C. Spring is wonderful all around the world. In the southern hemisphere, of course, spring is the opposite of month from our spring. But spring is particularly special here because these birds, and you will see some of them, I don't know how many, have crossed the Gulf of Mexico for 700 miles. There's no area of the world where you have birds crossing, making that kind of hummingbird, 700 miles, warbird, cuckoo without. And so when you see that bird, think about what they've done and how special it is to encounter them. And it gets back to my feeling about this area. You have the wonderful water birds, you have the wonderful shorebirds, you have the wonderful warbirds, we have the forest, the rich forest of East Texas. But one thing that, a characteristic of event tours, we appreciate every bird, common birds as well as rare ones. We're not just after the rare birds. We love cardinals, scarlet tanagers, summer tanagers. These are common birds. And you're going to see some of these birds over and over. And I encourage you, and I think you will, look at them each time. Don't, oh, I've seen the scarlet tanager, what's next? No, this is another wonderful scarlet tanager, one of the most beautiful birds in the world. And there's no place better to see it than here. And you will see scarlet tanagers and other tanagers and grosbeaks and buntings and warblers. So it gets back to what my friend Peter Matheson, my dear friend, the late Peter Matheson, said that in one article I read, that I was the Zen master of birding because every time I see a bird, it's as though I'm seeing it for the first time. Well, the older I get, the easier that is, because it does seem like the first time. But it is a nice quality that I fortunately have from my mentors and the way I grew up. And I get very excited about a hooded warbler. I mean, they're gorgeous. Not that's a hooded warbler. I've seen every hooded warbler, every ovenbird, every worm-eating warbler. And every time you see it, it's a different setting. You're different. It's a different day. It's different light. And so one thing that Peter was a Zen Buddhist. He was a Zen monk. Zen people talk about being in the moment. And birds bring us into the moment. You see something like a prothonotor warbler there, this beautiful golden bird, and you hopefully forget about everything else for a few minutes. You are there with a prothonotor warbler, and that's what some of what this book captures. So I would encourage people to do that, to be in the moment, to appreciate the whole ecosystem they're in. The Texas Gulf Coast, these rich marshes with these thousands of birds living in these marshes, the diversity of East Texas. East Texas is an area where it's far enough south that it has this, the big thicket was known because of the thicket because it had so many different plants and shrubs and vines that it is very thick. And it has a wonderful variety of trees, sweet gums and sycamores and cypresses and longleaf pine. And your leaders will talk to you about it, and wonderful butterflies and flowers. And we'll be seeing all of this. So take in the ecosystem you're in every day. Take in and appreciate every bird. I know you all do. That's what we do on our trips. And there are a couple of just little quotes I want to show you from this book to give you the feeling for the way he writes. Sunday, March 25th, because it brought the first warbler, long before I had expected it, stands out in the list of days. In the sunrise, a milky mist was steaming up from the river like a smoke screen laid down along the channel. The dew was still sparkling on the grass and visible as a soft radiance or ground mist over it. Today, the singing of birds was everywhere continuous and uninterrupted, where before today, the orchestra had simply been tuning up. From either side of the road, as I bicycled through the misty dawnlight, came the song of a field sparrow. Thoreau knew this song 100 years ago, and from his description, it's apparent that there has been no change. Though many sparrow generations have elapsed, they would take man through 2,000 or 3,000 years, generations of man, to equal them. It is as though Homer still sang. And then he ends up by saying, I found my bird quickly enough through my binoculars in the bare tops of the trees, flitting from twig to branch, from branch to trunk, intent on its business, pausing to throw its head back. The low morning sun shone full upon it among the treetops, the bright yellow throat like a piece of the sun itself. The blue-gray wings, the black and white head of the yellow-throated warbler, which is what we had up there earlier. Now that it was here, the warbler season had begun. And one final thing from this book. This is the time when one discovers anew the wonder of standing in the woods. They are as often disguised, and he's talking about animals in the woods, hidden by their surroundings. The lights and shadows always shifting as ever so slightly bewilder and amaze one's vision, which can hardly mark the quick flight of a bird. This is in the spring woods across them. And this is the last sentence I love so much. Are these the woods? in which only a few days ago, every tree and shrub standing naked could be counted? It is as if magic had come back to a world that no longer believed in it. I just love his writing. And one final thing to share with you, because you're going to be seeing this bird. My friend Jim Blackburn, who's a great environmental lawyer, wrote some musings about birds and about the Texas coast. And my favorite is a poem on the spoonbill, which you will be seeing lots of spoonbills in the rookery. The roseate spoonbill. I am in the church of the earth, and the pink bishop is in residence, striding across the shallow flat, head down, moving to and fro. I come to Earth Church for services that renew my soul. The sunrise starts the service by allowing me to see a gift for which I am grateful. I listen to the chorus of the red-winged blackbirds greeting the sun, welcoming me. The bishops rise, painting the blue sky with a pink ribbon of undulating life, speaking to my very essence of the nature of life on this rare and precious planet, of the relationship between all living things, of our duty as stewards, of the responsibility that being one of the living. I leave church with a smile, unlike many of my childhood visits to a church of another type. And I pray to the pink ones that I live to attend again. So these are some of my thoughts about being in this wonderful area that we're going to share together. My favorite area. What a thrill to be with all of you in this wonderful, wonderful area. We're going to have a great 4 days of birding, rain or not rain. We're going to see a lot of wonderful birds. I think that concludes the program, but I would like for the leaders to gather up in the corner. We have to talk to the leaders about a few matters before we start. So get a good night's sleep.